Once celebrated for driving Europe's economy forward, France now finds itself grappling with serious economic and social challenges. With an unemployment rate on the rise, persistent inflation, an immigration crisis, and growing social discontent, we need to ask ourselves, has France's colonial past finally caught up with it? Welcome to Living History. In 2023, amidst a chorus of protests against pension reforms and a general air of discontent with President Macron's leadership, France's economic challenges have come sharply into focus. The backdrop for these challenges is a global economy marked by uncertainty, with France's growth forecast for 2024 slashed to an alarming 1% from an already modest 1.4%, reflecting darker clouds on the horizon due to geopolitical tensions and slowdowns among its major trading partners. But how did we get here? For France, it starts in the era of tall ships and territorial claims, with the motto, "If there's a piece of land out there, it's ours for the taking." This spirit propelled France into establishing a global colonial empire, not just for showing on maps, but for economic gain, raw materials for the burgeoning industrial revolution, and markets for their goods. Fast forward to the 20th century, and these colonial adventures laid the groundwork for France's recovery and growth after World War II's devastation. It's ironic that the resources and wealth extracted under the so-called civilizing mission would become a lifeline for the homeland. This period marked the beginning of what some call France's golden age in the 20th century, leveraging colonial wealth and labor to rebuild and modernize its economy. But as the world frowned upon empires and colonies gained independence, France had to pivot. The transition from a colonial economic model to global economic integration was beneficial but shocking. The CFA franc, a currency invented by France in 1945 for use across its African colonies, was an attempt to keep former colonies in the economic sphere of influence, ensuring continued resource and market access. Yet this move raised questions about economic independence for the nations involved. This transition also mirrored broader shifts within France. Post-war, the country, under the leadership of General Charles de Gaulle, embarked on a path of state-led capitalism, a strategy aimed at rebuilding the war-torn economy by prioritizing investment in heavy industry and infrastructure over consumer goods. But by the late 20th century, following a global trend of economic liberalization, France, under the leadership of Presidents François Mitterrand and Jacques Chirac, began adopting market-oriented policies, influenced in large part by its membership in the European Union. This marked a significant departure from its previous economic model and colonial legacy, as France transitioned from direct colony control to a more collaborative and regulation-driven approach within the EU framework. This shift was not only a response to the changing dynamics of the global economy, but also a strategic move to adapt to the evolving landscape of international trade and commerce. France, like a teenager asserting independence, began to pivot from its state-led economic model to embrace the free market. As part of this ride, France hitched its wagon to the European Union, a move that opened doors to economic integration and opportunities. This was akin to getting a backstage pass to the economic concert of the century, but it came with challenges. Suddenly, France was playing in a league where competition was fierce, and EU regulations dictated the game's rules. This shift towards market-oriented policies, spurred by EU integration, also brought perks like investment surges, broader market access, and a ride on the TGV to prosperity. Yet, as euphoria faded, long-term challenges emerged. The reduction in state intervention and global competition exposure revealed cracks in the French economic facade. The reality set in. Integrating into a global economy meant facing global challenges, from financial crises to demographic shifts, and yes, also dealing with the harsh realities of life as a former colonial empire. These challenges not only threatened the economy, but also cast shadows over the sustainability of the nation's social security systems. And then there's Macron, stirring the pot with reforms aimed at revitalizing the French economy. Macron, the youngest president in French history, embarked on ambitious reforms to address labor shortages, revitalize manufacturing, and tackle the nation's towering public debt. However, not all have been received with open arms. His policies have sparked heated debates and at times violent street protests. Take the controversial immigration bill, for example, aimed at addressing labor shortages by tightening migration controls. Passed with significant support from Marine Le Pen's national rally, it showed a stark political divide and raised questions about its impact on labor market flexibility. This legislation, coupled with a struggling manufacturing sector that recorded a painfully low Purchasing Managers Index of just 45.7 points in December, paints a picture of a nation striving for economic revitalization amidst significant headwinds, many of its own making. Macron's government hasn't shied away from austerity measures either, announcing a no-tax hikes austerity budget for 2024 with 16 billion euros in savings to bring the deficit down to 4.4% of GDP. Yet, such austerity comes with its risks, potentially throttling growth and leaving households feeling the pinch. Macron's strategy also involves a push for a green transition and a dedication to reducing public debt. Critics argue that Macron's policies might not only perpetuate economic dependencies, but also fail to address systematic issues rooted in France's colonial past, suggesting that deeper structural reforms are needed to truly transform France's economic landscape. There is, however, an even bigger problem France is facing. Amidst the push for global economic integration, France faces a pressing demographic quandary and a concerning brain drain phenomenon. According to data from the OECD, France has experienced a significant outflow of highly educated professionals, with approximately 130,000 French citizens leaving the country annually in search of opportunities abroad. This exodus places immense strain on France's social security systems, particularly as the population ages. With over 20% of France's population expected to be aged 65 or older by 2050, as projected by Eurostat, the need for a robust workforce capable of supporting an aging populace becomes increasingly urgent. But there's more. The challenges facing France's labor market are complicated by recent immigration legislation aimed at tightening migration controls. While these measures are ostensibly designed to safeguard domestic employment, they inadvertently exacerbate labor shortages, particularly in sectors heavily reliant on migrant labor. For instance, in the agricultural sector, where migrants constitute a significant portion of the workforce, stringent immigration policies have led to critical labor shortages, affecting productivity and harvest yields. And yes, that also means less wine. This complex socio-economic landscape is further influenced by France's colonial legacy, which continues to shape education and employment practices, contributing to social inequality and disparities in opportunities. The hierarchical structuring of opportunities, rooted in colonial-era policies, often marginalizes minority groups, perpetuating cycles of inequality and forming parallel, often immigrant communities. This juxtaposition of needing labor but rejecting it at the border and educating individuals who then leave encapsulates the multifaceted social and economic challenges France faces in the aftermath of its colonial past. Which brings us back to the question of how is France's economy impacted by what happened way back when? Remember the CFA franc, a currency used by 14 African colonies, independent countries? Well, it has been a symbol of France's enduring financial influence over its former colonies. Designed initially to stabilize currency for these nations, it has over time stirred debates about economic sovereignty and neo-colonialism. After all, it is pegged to the euro at a fixed exchange rate, and its issuance and management are overseen by the French treasury. Critics argue that this arrangement has allowed France to maintain a form of economic control, affecting everything from inflation rates in these countries to their foreign reserves. This financial mechanism, coupled with France's strategic interests in its former colonies, often mirrors colonial economic exploitation patterns, raising questions about the true cost of such ties. This backdrop of continued economic dominance plays a significant role in current migration trends and social unrest. As young Africans seek opportunities beyond their borders, many look towards France, only to be met with strict migration controls. Criticism of the CFA franc has been particularly vocal, with calls for its abolition symbolizing a desire for economic decolonization. This currency, and by extension France's economic policies, are seen as relics of a bygone era, incompatible with contemporary aspirations for autonomy and equitable development in Africa. The international critique extends beyond the CFA franc, touching on broader issues of global economic justice, environmental policies, and France's role in international trade and diplomatic relations. Macron's attempts to position France as a leader in global issues like climate change are sometimes seen through a cynical lens, viewed as a continuation of France's paternalistic approach to its former colonies. As France grapples with mounting internal dissent and critiques from its former colonies and allies, the question remains: can France redefine its economic model and international stance in a way that truly breaks from its colonial past? Only time will tell. In the meantime, check out our next video, linked here.